Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I've got another kind of how-to video for you. We're going to go over the first 5 modifications you should be doing to your overland or off-road rig. But before we get into that, I want to take the opportunity to let you guys know that I did go on the All Terrain Family Podcast, and the podcast is now live on YouTube. I will link it below in the description. And also, you'll notice that I'm now wearing a microphone. I took all your guys' criticisms of the last couple videos about the audio quality, and so I went and got something to fix it. So hopefully this video is a lot better than the last couple. The first thing I'm going to recommend is going to be some new tires. The reason being is because tires are the most important part of your vehicle besides the engine and everything. The tires that usually come with your vehicle are going to be those little terrible street tires. So you're going to want to get some better tires for off-road performance. There's 2 different types of tires you can go with. You can go with the all-terrain or the mud-terrains. Both have their strengths and weaknesses. Very quickly, the all-terrains get better gas mileage because of the smaller lugs. They do better in pretty much all terrain types, so snow, rain, dry pavement, dirt. Then you have mud terrains. They've got the bigger treads, the bigger spacing between the treads. So there's going to be more on-road noise, and they don't do as well in icy conditions. So snow, they're not great in unless it's the deep powder stuff. But on-road performance, these are good but not great. So if you're going to be mostly spending your time on pavement, you might want to look into all-terrains instead of mud terrains. So the second thing we're going to cover is going to be your protection. We're going to talk about skid plates, which run under the body of the vehicle. We're going to talk about sliders, which protect your rocker panel. And then we're going to talk about your bumpers. So, skid plates are what goes underneath the vehicle. For my vehicle, I have just the transfer case and the IFS skid plate. If you own a Toyota or any other vehicle like a Jeep has like very good aftermarket support, you're going to be able to find skid plates that cover the entire underbelly of your vehicle. This is vital because if you tear a transmission pan off, if you crack your transfer case, these are pretty big uh-ohs that will get you stuck if you are by yourself or even with other people. It's going to take a lot to get you out. So having that underbelly protection is crucial. The other thing is going to be sliders. They usually run the length of the cab vehicle, and they either bolt on or weld onto your frame underneath. They protect the underside, your doors, all here. So if you are in a rock garden and you come down, you can hit that instead of your door. And instead of denting your door and pushing it up and ruining it, you just hit your slider, put a little dent in that, and then you're fine. They're crucial to have. I'm working on getting a set for myself. I have to get them custom made because, well, no one's really off-roading these full-size Dodges. So pretty much most of my parts are going to be special order when it comes to that. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be your bumpers. So for your bumpers, you can get the aluminum or the steel bumpers. The aluminum is going to save you weight, which is nice if you're going to run a winch, because adding a winch usually adds about 100 pounds or so to your front end. And if you get a new rear bumper, you can get one with a tire swing out, so you can keep your spare out from underneath your vehicle, which is a really nice option to have because once you start getting bigger tire sizes, usually they don't fit up and under. You're going to need something that holds onto them in the back or even in your cab or your truck bed like I have. So now we're going to move into recovery gear. I was smart and totally forgot to bring all my stuff out to show you guys. But what I do have is my hitch recovery point. These are the best thing that you can buy. They're about $20, $30 depending on where you get them from on Amazon. They fit right into your receiver here, your 2-inch receiver, bolts in, and then you can either run a D-ring shackle or one of the soft shackles through here, and then when you get stuck they can just yank you off of this. There's all sorts of different types of recovery gear. Depending on if you go by yourself, if you're a solo traveler versus if you go in groups, the recovery gear you're going to want to buy is a little bit different. If you're going to go by yourself, you're going to want mostly the self-rescuing type of recovery gear. So that would be traction pads, you'd want to get winches, you'd want to get a winch recovery bag. Because when you're out there by yourself, you can't really take a strap off of someone else, you know, so you got to find ways to recover yourself. The traction pads are great for that. You could do the Max Tracks. You can buy the cheap knockoff that I have, the Amazon, the Max Attract boards. And then for winches, you're going to want to mount them usually, as everybody knows, mount them to the front of your vehicle. You're going to want to get a good recovery bag full for stuff like your tree straps. You're going to want to get more D-ring shackles. You're going to want to get chain. There's all sorts of bags online that you can just buy that's a pre-assembled kit for you, which is also really nice to have. Alright, so let's start talking about comms on the trail. There's three main types of communication ways that people use when they're out on the trail. The first one's going to be the small little FRS. It's like those little two-way radios you have probably at home. They're good for about a mile or so. They're not great, but they'll do in a pinch. This is a CB. It's the Midland 75-822. I have it hardwired in through an antenna in my back of my truck. This works pretty well. I can get about 2 to 5 miles out of it, depending on the type of terrain I'm in. Out in the desert, I can get closer to 5, but in the mountains, I can usually get about a mile or so. Just because of the types of terrain we're in, the hills really affect it. But if you have a home base compared to like a mobile handheld like this, you can get a lot farther than 2 to 5 miles. I mean, people are going about, I've heard of people going up to 50 miles with the big antenna on top of their house. The next one that's getting really big and really popular is going to be ham radio. Ham radio you have to be licensed in order to use, but you get a lot more range. I think it's about 20 to 50 miles for a handheld, like a mobile unit, depending on the type of terrain and of course the antenna you're using. But if you have a big home base with a huge antenna, you can probably get up to closer to 100 miles from the research that I've done. You're going to want to use these if you're in a group run, because honestly, communications on the trail are probably like the most fun part of going on a group 4x4 trip. And if you're a team on a big expedition, it's nice to have the communications between vehicles. So definitely pick these up if you're going to be doing group runs or you have another rig and stuff like that. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about, your lighting. Lighting is crucial when you're out in the middle of nowhere. You may think, oh, but I don't ever do night runs, I'm never out past dark. You'd be surprised that when something goes wrong, it goes wrong real bad. So it's better to have these and not need them, but you will use them, trust me. When I first bought this one, I was like, oh, I'll put it on just to be safe, never use it. I use this thing all the time. It's so nice to have. It just throws light down the trail. You don't need just these front light bars too. The ones I have in the back, they're called dust lights. They sit up behind the cab on the bed rails, and they shoot backwards. So in the daytime, when I'm running a really dusty trail, they shoot back and I flick them on. The people behind me can see me, so when they're coming up on me, they'll see that I'm actually there. And because the brake lights don't really penetrate well through the dust, but the bright white light does. Okay, so this is more of a tip, not really a modification, but when you buy your vehicle, make sure you replace all the fluids. You're going to want to change the oil in the vehicle, the engine, transmission fluid. You're going to want to service your 4x4 system, so your transfer case, both differentials, coolant, all the fluids, because you don't know when the previous owner did them last, if they even did do them. You're also going to want to check your, if you have an independent front suspension vehicle, you're going to want to look at the boots on the axles and on the tie rods. You're going to want to inspect them for tears, leaks, rips, anything like that, because if you don't fix them, it leads to a bigger problem. You're going to have to replace the entire CV instead of just the boot, which is a $5 part. So make sure you're checking that last little bit out. But that's going to be it for the video today. I really appreciate you sticking around, learning all this about vehicles and what you need to do to get out there. Don't be afraid to take your stock vehicle out. The best way to learn what you need is to take your vehicle out and see where it lacks. These are just a few of my recommendations for what to do to your vehicle in order to get out and back safely. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Leave some comments below what you think your top 5 modifications for your vehicle should be. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.